institutions such as M&T Bank, which has a large presence in the Niagara University area. We also had students go to the FBI and do information security there. The next major area, this is kind of a new focus, and this is my area of concentration too, is on artificial intelligence. A day doesn't go by these days where we don't hear about how AI is rapidly advancing. And we have some new classes in that area, and it's going to be a new concentration in the upcoming curriculum as well. Other fields that you can focus on are programming, or more specifically, we're having a concentration that's going to be called software engineering. That's the next major field that most of our students focus on and focus their classwork on, as well as work in the industry for. Two other areas, I mentioned web development before. There's still web development. There's IT management. Because we have a strong business school at Niagara University, you see students that have a lot of interests that span both of those fields. So in a nutshell, those are the major fields that we have here for computer science.
Okay, wonderful. I'll get back to some of them because students are always very excited about, especially when you talk about things like AI. It's like, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? And of course, I kind of glaze over because I don't know the details. They know much more than I do.
Yeah, that's the same for me too.
So, when they kind of throw these questions at me, I'm just like trying to sort it out. But anyway, moving a little bit in terms of, you've talked about all these areas. Do they have to declare this in advance, or can they do that after coming to campus and kind of browsing around some of the courses, talking to advisors? When does one declare what their specific area or in the major is going to be?
So the way that it currently is, there are basically 20 classes within the CIS major that students need to take. 10 are required, 10 are, we advise you, they're electives. Some of the electives you need to have some type of strategy, but in general, it's extremely flexible. And this is both a good and a bad thing. It's good because you can easily arrange to get a minor degree, for example, in business or in another area, finance, that you want to focus on. But the problem with it is, and we learned this from speaking to some of our graduates, is that they don't have enough focus on an individual area of computer science. So this is part of what drove the concentration program, where we're going to encourage students strongly to focus on one individual area of computer science so that they become a stronger candidate for a particular job when they graduate. As it stands right now, they don't need to declare anything. I am strongly encouraging my advisees to actually do one of the concentrations and focus on an area. And maybe in the future, there will be, I don't want to say a requirement, but some way to further encourage students to focus on a specific concentration.
Okay, very good. Something which you mentioned in terms of what they will need later on or down the road. So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. And the reason being, it's very simple. Students want to know what's their future going to be like, but more importantly, the parents want to know. I mean, they're sending their sons and daughters to us. So they want to know 4 years from now, what does it look like for a student who has graduated with a CIS degree at Niagara University? Kind of walk us through that.
Sure. So the field in general is listed, in the top 5 professions, which there's going to be demand that's in the computer industry. So in that sense, you're definitely going into the right field if you stick with CIS. For our graduates specifically, the ones that, focused on information security, it's almost like the employers can't hire them fast enough. And we've had meetings. M&T Bank has come out and visited with us, trying to encourage us to, funnel the students through their internships, to even focus our curriculum more towards their needs. It isn't a guaranteed thing that when you graduate, you're going to instantly have a job, because Niagara University is more of a smaller university that's local and regional. When you go outside the upstate New York region, people don't know the name as much. And in that regard, it's good for the students to focus on an individual area so that they're a stronger candidate in order to be hired. But if you were to pick a major, if I had to go to undergraduate school again and find out or pick a major where it's going to have good job prospects, CIS is definitely one of the best ones to pick.
Okay. So I'll pick up on something which you said. I mean, Niagara is a small university, but with that smallness come definite advantages. And I think one of the advantages which you and I will both agree is the size of our classes. They are small. Yeah, can you talk a little bit about, what your
Sure.
class?
So I have 3 classes that I'm teaching now. In the number of students in each class, it's 10, 12, and 16. So I love that it's a small class like that. I'm able to, I know all my students, personally. I know their names. I know what's going on in their life. I know when they have sporting events. I know when they have projects in their other classes. So that one-to-oneness and being able to relate to the students, at least it helps me teach them. I believe it helps them too, and it's a benefit for them. When you go to, I went to big universities, and you kind of get lost in the crowd. I remember one of my classes, I had over 100 students in, and the professors didn't know who I was. I was like, the joke was you could have someone else show up for your exam and they won't even know anything. So there's definite advantage to having a small university and small class size. And not only that, our cohort, the number of students that start the CIS major is about 20 students, 25 students every year. So you get to know them. There's a good camaraderie. You help each other out. It's not cutthroat like other universities. There's definite pluses and minuses to having a small university.
Yes, definitely. And I think, I'll elaborate a little bit. The faculty student ratio at Niagara University, which is 11 students per faculty member, it's one of the lowest in the country, in fact. So people may talk about whatever it is that their university is, but when it comes to true engagement between faculty and students, I think the Niagara experience is a much richer experience. Students, get to interact and interface with their faculty member on a regular basis, compared to the large schools where, as you said, they are lost in the crowd, and their own faculty members will never recognize them, even if they met them. So that is, of course, a definite plus. And it's one of the things for many international students who come over, adjusting to the smallness of the campus allows them to kind of get a feel of what the educational environment is and kind of experience all that. Since you mentioned cohort and the number of students, can you talk? Whenever I think of CIS, I think of all these fun things that the students are doing when
Sure.
it comes to technology. And can you talk a little bit about what are some of these things which your students get involved in, both in class and outside class, which have to do with their area?
Sure. So I have a group of 3 students who are working with drones and AI. And in a couple of weeks, there's going to be the undergraduate research session where they're going to have a poster session and show the rest of the university the research that they're working on. So more specifically, we have 3 quad rotors from really small, a DJI, to a larger one, about 20 or 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. And we also have an RC plane. And the students are mounting miniature cameras and a Raspberry Pi, which is a microcomputer that has a good large amount of processing power on it for its weight. So weight is key when you're talking about aircraft. So the task that they're trying to do is it feasible to do AI object identification given the processing power, the limited processing power that you have on one of these drones? And it goes from small to medium to large size drones so that you can have more of a payload. And they're creating this very interesting graph of what the performance is. So just seeing an object and being able to say what it is, oh, that's a banana, that's a cell phone. We took some of my son's toys that are tanks, miniature little tanks, to see if the aircraft can identify the tank. Not that we were like military focused, but that's definitely one of the focuses for drone technology. So as I mentioned, this is something that 3 of the students are doing. This is outside of their class. This is something that they're going to do a research poster session. And going back to your previous question of, small versus large university, you might be thinking, oh, I should go to a large university which focuses on research and I'll have more chance. When I was an undergrad at a big research university, I went and talked to several professors and none of them had any openings for me and there's no opportunity. So one of the pluses again of a small university is that you're interacting directly with your professors. And I invite all my students, I have opportunities for them, various research ones. Some other projects, I teach a class on introduction to AI. We have a robot arm that the students need to program So it's so much like a laboratory setting. Most of the CIS classes, students are pretty much sitting in front of a computer, a powerful computer.
Mm.
And it's sort of like a laboratory environment in that regard. Um, Inside my networking class that I'm also teaching right now, the students are building their own Ethernet cables. So it's a very low level technology. You might be like, oh, why am I going to college to make Ethernet cables? But it gives them a fundamental understanding. We measure the voltages that are propagating along the Ethernet lines, and the students have something to make with their hands and truly understand it.
Okay, thank you. So Raspberry Pi is not what I would think of when talking to computer science students.
Yes.
That's something which I have learned just now. Raspberry Pi, do not mention it.
Mhm.
It's not anything edible when it comes to CIS. Um, you talked about the creative things which students are doing, but at the same time they have social life outside. Do you know what kind of activities students get involved in? I mean, there are a number of clubs. There are over 80 clubs at Niagara University for students to get involved in. Are there things which they do and with other departments or other areas, and they get involved in other kinds of things?
Yeah, well, among the CIS students, one of the most popular clubs is the esports club.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is where the university actually bought several high-powered gaming desktop computers. And the team, it's actually like a sports team, registered as a sports team rather than as a club. But they compete with other universities. There's, I forget the 4 different games that they specialize in. But that's something that allows them to, use their CIS skills, the interests, the things that they love. And it's a social environment as well. Because there was so much interest in esports and the management aspects of it, we created a minor degree in esports management.
Mm.
So this gives the students, again, a way to apply their passion in a way that's also going to end up in hopefully a career, or give them career options later on.
Okay, so that's very good. Yes, club activities are important. I mean, that's kind of where a lot of the engagement happens. And you mentioned esports. Last semester, actually, our office sponsored the FIFA tournament. And you had all these teams. We had 32 teams representing each one of the countries in terms of the FIFA World Cup. And it was fascinating how it kind of all, it came out to who's the winner and the losing finalists and the semifinalists and everything. But it was a fascinating experience, all organized by the students. And of course, if I'm not mistaken, the 3 winners, the top 3 prizes went to international students, if I'm not mistaken. But there were students from across all different kind of different things, people who were involved in esports and all. So it was kind of a fun thing. Talking about fun, I'll talk a little bit about the campus environment. For many of you, of course, you've heard about Niagara University. I mean, it's named after, one of the most famous waterfalls in the world, and that's Niagara Falls. That's actually literally down the road from us. If you drive, it'll be about, 3-4 miles, but you can actually walk along the gorge and kind of do a trek, and you reach the falls. And that's something which we do with the students, international students, when they come. There's a trek one afternoon, which is organized, and somebody takes them down and they kind of do the trek along the gorge. It's a fascinating experience. You're right next to nature, in nature, and you see the gorge and the water going through, and then you come up to the falls, and this magnificent view of the falls, right kind of looming in front of you. But yeah, there is a lot. The campus is huge. I mean, it's a vast campus, but the concentration of buildings makes it at the same time a small campus. You can walk from one end of the campus to the other end in about 10-12 minutes. And students enjoy the fact that the dorms are there. The sports center is right next to, and the classrooms and the cafeteria and anything and everything that they actually need in creating this small little community at Niagara University. So yes, that is one of the. Do students work on campus? Is a question which I'm frequently asked. Do international students work on campus? Do you have any idea about that, or because
Yeah, sure. Yeah, to add about Niagara Falls, while it's 10 minutes away, you can actually walk to the power generation, hydroelectric power generation. It's 2 minutes away from campus, and they have a little museum there. So for one of
Oh,
my
okay.
classes, I brought all the students over and we looked at the museum, and they used to
Oh,
have a statue of Nikola Tesla, and it's gone now. So I don't know if they're bringing it back or if they're improving it, but Nikola Tesla, famous for alternating current. It's 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes from campus. As far as jobs, several of the departments hire students. So currently the CIS department is employing 2 students. One of them is in charge of developing it's called a C-STEM lab. So the university donated a bunch of money to buy microcomputers such as the Raspberry Pis, 3D printers, soldering equipment for doing simple electronics. The robotic arms were part of this funding. So there's a student who works to manage that laboratory and keep it in good working condition. There's another student that helps the professors out with their basic day-to-day needs. Other jobs on campus, the other departments have positions too. The dining facilities hires some students.
right.
And I do have students that work off campus as well. So I don't know if international students are able to work off campus or if they're limited to on campus, but
No,
there
so
are
for international,
opportunities.
yeah, for international students, there are certain restrictions. While they are the undergraduate level, they're expected to work on campus.
Okay.
So they can work on campus up to 20 hours. When the semester is over, during break time, then they can work up to 40 hours. And during that time, yes, there can be opportunities for them to work off campus, but usually the expectation is that they should be working on campus. There are other details and fine print in terms of what can happen and what are some of the exceptions. But we get into those things typically when the student arrives and goes through orientation. And for many of you who will be joining us, your orientation, you'll be getting the letter, the dates of orientation. If I'm not mistaken, it's August 24th and 25th. So you're expected to arrive on the 22nd or 23rd of August. Kind of arrive, settle in, get into your room in the housing, and then kind of just meander around campus, and then you're ready for a day-long orientation, the international orientation, where we walk you through all aspects of international, where it comes to you, from immigration issues and working on campus, what is it needed for you to get permission, and not just permission on campus, but you have to get approval from, you have to get your social security number, which authorizes you to actually work. So the various things that we go over, from billing to academic and other things that you should be aware of. So there's something which we do with international students, and it's a full day orientation. And then, of course, the next day they join the main orientation with the rest of the freshman students who are joining. So they get to meet their peers, the 500 odd students will be with them for the next 4 years. So yeah, we walk them through all these different kinds of things.
Yeah, to add to that, if I could just chime in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, we a colleague and I, Dr. Tom, we received research funding to support 2 students in our research, and one of them was an international student. And it was just excellent because there was a lot of paperwork, and the department, I'm not sure the exact department at Niagara University, but they knew every single thing that we needed to do in order to fill out the legal requirements to get him employed. But also, in addition to the department hiring students, professors hiring students for research, the Information Technology Center at Niagara University, I believe, is the one that hires the most students, and they basically work at the help desk. So if you're a CIS major, that's a great job opportunity for you.
Okay. Yes, definitely. And there are a number of other opportunities, and we want students, once they arrive, they'll become familiar with what jobs there are. And it can be in the cafeteria, it can be in the department offices, or with faculty, or with their countless other opportunities. But the idea is for them to submit a resume and go through the interview process. We want them to understand things which are going to be important, and some things which they're going to go through down the road. So they get their experience of, what does it mean to be in an interview face-to-face in the United States. And so we want that kind of exposure. So they should be having that and getting that experience. So yes, I'll quickly talk a little bit about housing for all international students. As you know, you will be staying in campus housing for the first 2 years. And after that, it's your decision if you want to live off campus or continue on campus. But that is something which is very important for your early years on the college campus, to network, get to meet your peers, engage, interact, come up with different kinds of activities, just to get an understanding of why you have come to the US and to Niagara, what this social life, that student life is all about. There are tons of activities, you can get involved in some of the sports, or you can just be a wonderful spectator. We have a lot of international students who are athletes, in fact, in many of our athletic programs. So there are a number of things that you can easily get involved in. And so we encourage all of that. Any closing comments from your side?
One of the things that really surprised me when I came to Niagara University, and it's going to sound cheesy, but it's really true, is how friendly the students are and the other faculty are. I don't know if that comes from the smallness of it and how it's more of a small community, but truly, it's not like a cutthroat area where you're trying to make sure the other students are doing bad so you get the A. Rather, it's a helpful environment where people are helping each other out, being social together. And that's something that really amazed me, and I really appreciate about being at Niagara University.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Taylan. And
thank you. Good luck to everybody.
Yes, and to all of you who are listening in from in different parts of the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and have a wonderful rest of the week. And we look forward to seeing you on campus. And if you have any questions, please do get in touch with the admissions office. They can help you, or the international programs office. We'll be able to help you. But we look forward to seeing you on campus.
Yeah, and please feel free to email me directly. If you look at the CIS department, you'll see my name and contact information right there. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Good luck.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.